year end following completion of our planning work and our planning procedures. So as a bit of background, we commenced our planning work in January this year, started with a meeting with management, and then have performed our procedures, which has enabled me to be with you here today to present our audit service plan. The service plan identifies and communicates to the Joint Committee our identified risk assessments and our testing procedures in response to that risk assessment. So there's a few pages of our service plan which I would appreciate just taking the Joint Committee through in terms of transparency of how we're going to perform this year's audit. So page 3 of our audit service plan document, which I think is page 10 on the actual pack which has been sent around. I'd like to start with materiality. Our objective as auditors is to detect any material misstatement within the financial statements. So materiality is a benchmark which is determined by ourselves as auditors as a level which, if a misstatement did exist, it would alter someone's view of the performance of those financial statements. There are set measures or set bases for determining materiality levels. For West Mercia Energy, we have set as our benchmark 1% of a 3-year average of turnover. We have, however, capped that materiality level not to exceed the budgeted profit for the year. In effect, if a material misstatement were to arise and would change the performance from a profit to a loss, for example, we would consider that to be material. So we have capped our overall materiality level at 1.1 million. And that is for the financial statements as a whole. We have identified 2 further materiality levels for other areas of the financial statements. So expenditure we have set as a lower level, 50% of overall materiality for expenditure items. The reason being so is because the profile of the financial statements, the expenditure, the overhead expenditure is substantially less than the top line income and cost of income. We've also identified related party transactions as an area which we consider to be material by nature, and I'll pick up on related parties in a couple of pages' time. So that sets out our materiality for the audit for the coming year. And then turning the page onto page 4, section 2, our identified risk and our audit responses. So our role as auditors is to identify areas of increased risk. And again, the risk assessment is performed by us as the external auditors, and we're required to consider likelihood and magnitude of any related risk. So areas where misstatement may be likely, or if misstatement were to occur, would have a higher impact on the financial statements, equates to a risk area. We are prescribed by audit regulations to have 2 risk areas, the first of which is management override of control, and this is a risk required on all external audits. In effect, it is management's ability potentially to override the controls within the entity, within the financial system, and therefore misstate the financial statement. So we've considered that to be a significant risk. As I said, we do have to consider that as a significant risk. There is also a presumed risk, again directed by audit regulations, of revenue recognition, so risk of fraud within revenue. Given the level of revenue within West Mercia Energy, we have not rebutted that presumed risk. And our final risk is going concern. So again, just for transparency, going concern is the underlying basis of the financial statements preparation. And in effect, it's looking forward from a 12-month period from when the accounts are authorised. In effect, saying that the entity will be able to continue trading 12 months from that date. So the expected period we're looking at, assuming the timetable is met and the accounts are authorised September 2025, is 12 months to September 2026. We've retained going concern as a risk for the current year audit, and really that is due to some of the wider global issues which are currently present and potential impact on the underlying energy sector and energy prices. I think it's important for me to note that the current financial position of West Mercia Energy doesn't give rise to any risk itself. It is more so the global environment we currently face ourselves with. And it's for that reason we've retained it as a risk area for the current year audit. Go ahead, please.
It's a question for the team, I guess. I'm just curious, in the current era we're living in this mad world we're in at the moment, is there any penalties that you could incur if you are unable to supply to your contracts? If you couldn't get the gas, or if there was major blackouts of electricity, would you be would there be penalties payable by you to the people you're supposed to supply?
Good question early, that one, isn't it? We'd have to look at the nature of our contracts. I mean, we do step in between the end user and the supplier. So ultimately, the contracts are in place so that it should be backed off with what the supplier obligations are. So if the supplier couldn't supply the end user, then
it's a sort of condition, you know, to the best of your ability to get supply. But if there's a national problem, you can't do it. Does that make sense? Is that sort of clause in there?
I'd have to check.
Okay, might be worth looking at.
Yeah.
I suppose really, are you picking up, Nigel, there's any, with the political shenanigans that are going on at the minute, are you picking any sort of issues with supply of energy coming from the east or whatever?
Not necessarily. I mean, what we're seeing is volatility in the markets in terms of prices, but prices have trended down over last 2 or 3 weeks, although we're seeing, you know, last Thursday gas prices dropped 8p, which is around 8-9% on the Thursday. Started carrying on down on the Friday, then bounced up 6-7p later in the day. So we're seeing great volatility within the day, and as a result, we are trading cautiously in future contracts. So we're fully locked out for next financial year, and I've got quite a lot of cover for future years as well. So that's the biggest impact on us, where the global geopolitical situation is driving the market, is to be more cautious on our trading activity. So.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Alex. That was great. Thank you very much. Moving on then to agenda item 9.
Sorry, I've got a bit more to run
okay, sorry.
That's okay. Okay, so I was on page 4 of a service plan. Moving on to page 5, I won't run through the detail of this page. This is page 12 on the agenda pack. That just sets out our audit response to those identified risks. So I won't run through those in detail, but they are there for transparency. Over the page, section 3, other considerations. So just to pick up on laws and regulations, as part of our audit work, we are required to first and foremost understand key laws and regulations the entity has to adhere to. When we come to our audit field work over summer, we're really trying to understand and to test compliance with those regulations. If there are any instances of non-compliance, what would the financial impact be, and the impact be on the financial statements? At present, we're not aware of any instances of non-compliance. And then again on to 3.2, accounting estimates. We are again required to understand accounting estimates used in the preparation of the financial statements. Accounting estimates may have high levels of estimation or judgment, and this feeds into that management override risk I mentioned a couple of pages ago. We haven't identified any key accounting estimates at present which transpire to an increased area of risk at the planning stage. Over the page, other considerations. Related parties, as previously mentioned, but below a threshold in terms of materiality for related parties. Accounting standards require that related party transactions are appropriately disclosed within the financial statements, and hence why we consider those to be material by nature, because any size related party transaction requires to be disclosed. Accounting policies, again, we're not aware of any changes to accounting policies for the current year. So in terms of how the accounts look and the underlying transactions behind them, we're not expecting any changes there. And then last couple of pages, if I take you to page 9 of the service plan, which is our workflow and audit focus areas. Again, really just to give a joint committee an overview of our timetable, which we've agreed with management, gearing up to that joint committee meeting in September 2025. Then finally over the page are, again, for transparency reasons, our fees in connected with performing this work for the year ended March 2025. Those were the key aspects I wanted to bring to the attention of the joint committee. So any questions, welcome.
Thank you, Alex. Yeah, William?
Just been on the committee for a few years now, and I'm just wondering, how often do you, not being disrespectful to yourself, look at the costings of what they're charging compared to what other people in the market are charging?
We do a tender every 3 years, so we're in the second year of the tender. this year.
fine.
So yeah,
Thank you.
Any other questions for Alex? Okay, thank you very much, Alex. On to agenda item 9 then. So it's the internal audit performance report to March 2025. It's got Adam down as up there. Okay. Over to yourself then, Adam. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'm Adam. I'm the Principal Auditor for Shropshire Council, and I'll be presenting 2 reports this morning. Our first report is the Internal Audit Performance Report, summarising the work completed to date on the 24-25 audit plan. If I draw members' attention to point 6.6 on agenda page 21, I am pleased to confirm that all planned work for 24-25 has been completed. We have completed 5 audits covering debtors, finance, corporate governance, procurement and IT. All audits undertaken have received a good assurance opinion, which is the highest assurance we offer. A total of 4 recommendations have been raised, and this is a slight improvement on the 6 that were raised in the previous year. All recommendations have been assessed as requires attention, which address minor control weaknesses or housekeeping issues. There are no findings that have been assessed as significant or fundamental that I need to draw to the Joint Committee's attention this morning. However, to provide further information and background for members, we have provided the full audit reports as appendices, which are on pages 23 to 60 of the agenda pack. Please note that as we report by exception only, those reports only contain the findings identified within the reviews and not our full audit coverage. I am pleased to report that management engagement with the audit process has been really positive, with information provided in a timely manner and responses to queries fully answered as part of our testing process. In addition, recommendations raised within our reviews have been accepted. I'm happy to answer any questions members may have.
Thank you, Adam. Any questions from any member of the committee?
To move the recommendation in the report, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a seconder, please? Okay, thank you, Ollie. Okay, I'm going to take a vote then on the report. Everyone happy with it? Okay, thank you very much. That's passed then. Thank you. We're into agenda item number 10. Again, back to yourself, Adam, again.
Thank you. Our second report is the proposed programme of work for 25-26. For WME, we continue to follow a programme of work that ensures coverage over financial, governance and IT risks. Our audit plan was reviewed with WME at the end of November 2024. The proposed plan and days are included on Appendix A in Agenda Pack, page 64. Okay. The proposed audit plan covers procurement, debtors, finance, IT and corporate governance. Whilst the audits summarised in Appendix A provide a high-level summary of coverage, prior to commencing any work for 25-26, we will conduct meetings with the relevant officers and discuss the proposed detailed scope for audit work, considering any emergent risks that may require assurance as part of our testing. We will also agree the timings of those reviews during the course of the year. Again, any questions?
Any questions anyone's got for? Okay. Thank you very much. No questions.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Will. Anyone prepared to? Okay, choose Anna. So can I take a show of hands that we all endorse the report? Passed unanimously. Thank you very much. And we're on to agenda item number 11 then, and back to Nigel.
Thanks, Chair. So this report sets out our transparency statement for 24-25, and in accordance with our anti-slavery and human trafficking policy, which has been approved by the Joint Committee. The Joint Committee are recommended to approve the draft transparency statements attached to the report and delegate authority to myself to finalise it once the year end is finished, and then we publish it on our website. Happy to take any questions, Chair.
Okay. Any questions for Nigel on the slavery statement? Okay. Can I have a proposer, please, for that? Okay. Choose Ollie. Seconder. Okay. Choose Gloom. Okay. Can I have a show of hands on the acceptance of that? Okay. Passed. And Nigel, click on. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chair. So annually we review the risk strategy document and we bring that forward to the committee to approve. It was last approved 12 months ago, and we're not proposing any changes to that strategy report as attached in the appendix. In terms of the risk register, we formally review it twice a year ahead of these committee meetings. Currently, there are 71 risks identified in the register, the majority of which are operational and mitigated by controls we have in place to an acceptable level. There are two risks that are deemed to be medium, and there's two risks that have been downgraded since the last meeting, so I'll just talk through those. The first risk that remains at medium level relates to our trading activity, and the risk that due to a market spike, for example, we breach through capital risk levels above our 10% risk level. The likelihood, we believe, is low through the controls we have in place, but if it did happen, the impact could be large. So that's why it's still classified as a medium. The second risk that remains as medium is loss of business due to a central government initiative. And there's particularly one that we're keeping an eye on at the moment that's overseen by the Department of Education. They are doing an energy for schools program in collaboration with Crown Commercial Service. And given education is the largest part of our portfolio, we're keeping a close eye on that. The impact is minimal at the moment, but we're keeping a close eye on that. And as part of the business plan update, Gavin will run through that a little bit more as well. Two risks have been downgraded in terms of where our prices sit in the market for the new financial year. 12 months ago, there was a large dip in the market 3 months prior to us setting prices, so we at that point we're a little bit uncompetitive potentially. This year we are, well, a month ago we were 20% better than market. Market prices have dropped a little bit. We are 2% better or worse than the market, depending which part of the day you look at, really. So we're very competitive against the market rates, really, at the moment. So the risk of being uncompetitive has reduced from medium to low. And the final risk that I've considered and downgraded is the risk associated with customers viewing our suppliers in a negative light, either through their trading activities or through their ownership of assets. And there's a view of that, when 3 years ago, when the invasion occurred of Ukraine, it was right push back on anybody holding assets in Russia. Many of our suppliers have tried to get rid of those assets as much as they can, but there will be some connections there still. So the likelihood of suppliers still having some connections is there, and it's still a 5, but the impact we feel on our customer base is a lot lower. There's a number of queries 3 years ago; those have diminished now. So it's that's a high likelihood, but the impact has been reduced to a low in our view. So that's it, really. So members are asked to go back to recommendations to approve the strategy, which hasn't changed, and to accept the position set out in this report. Happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you. Paul?
It's a hypothetical question again. I don't know whether it's for James or yourself. I guess it's where local government stands at the moment and devolution. If we end up becoming a combined authority, and some of the members of this committee aren't in that combined authority, is there a risk that they may want to leave as a member? I'm just saying, because, or there could be the opportunity that if we become a combined authority with 2/3 of the members, there may be another person who wants to join. Do you see? And where the constitution sits around all that. That's all I was just saying. Should it be put down there as a risk in light of the changes of local government?
Fair point. We have considered that and put that in the risk register, and we have covered it in the business plan. And you're right in saying it's both an opportunity as well as a threat. And we've considered initially across our customer base what's likely to happen first, and it's probably the movement, districts being disbanded and being amalgamated within certain areas. And in our base, it's Worcestershire and Gloucestershire. So the fact that we've got what Worcestershire's a member authority, Gloucestershire's our longest established customer.
You could end up with just having the combined authority as the member.
Indeed.
Just a thought. How does it affect the constitution then? So,
my chair, there's the joint agreement in place between the four owning authorities. We would have to go back and look at that joint agreement. So it allows for members to join or leave as is required. At the moment, those decisions are made at the cabinet of each of the owning authorities. So I'm not saying it would be a simple process, it would be quite convoluted, but there is a process there that would enable us to move.
Thank you, James. No, Gordon, that's a very valid point. I think, certainly from a Herefordshire perspective, what we've now done is we initially started from the devolution papers that came out late last year. We engaged with a number of other local authorities, but what we've now done, whilst the decision was then taken that effectively the local government elections are going to take place, what we've now effectively accepted is we'll effectively park the issue, because there's no point engaging with local authorities who in 2 months' time could be a completely different local authority. So we've chosen that decision to take. We're certainly very keen for our leader, chief executive, and other officers to engage. We've still got lots of work going on around. So it's very much a case of not sticking your head in the sand. It's just a case of not doing nugatory work.
no, from our perspective, we have been talking to anybody we can talk to, really, within reason. Say the door's open for negotiation.
Okay, so on the risk management then, so I'm looking for an approval. Show of hands if we all agree to approve the risk management then. Yeah, excellent. Thank you very much, Nigel. On to agenda item number 13, which is inclusion of the press and public, to consider a resolution under section 100A of the Local Government Act 1972 that the proceedings in relation to the following items shall not be conducted in public on the grounds that they involve the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined by the provisions of Schedule 12A of the Act. And therefore, can I have a show of hands if everyone agrees that we now move into private session? Cool, you happy? Yeah, okay, thank you very much. So, Shelley, can you now pause the